Hi, it's me. So I want to go through the planner that I'll be using for next year. And so I'm going to compare next year's planner to the planner that I've been using for this year. And so I'm going to compare December and December since December is blank. And yeah. So this year's planner and next year's planner are both using Erin Condren tabs. I'm using these vegan leather tabs. So I used the colorful ones for this year, and I'm using different ones for next year just to do something different. But I do really like these, and I will use them again. Okay, so this year as well as last year, I've been using the same format. I tweaked a few things from last year's design, but it's basically the same thing that I was using last year. I'm kind of sick of looking at it, so I redid everything. Also, you can probably see this is kind of thick. Most of that is the thickness of the paper, but it's also more pages than the one I had this year because I decided to do something different. But this is what I've been using. So we have a title page and a quote and our tab. And on the other side of the tab, we have this kind of at a glance page. I took this out for next year's planner because I actually don't use that at all. I like the way it looks, but I don't want to have things that I'm not using in next year's planner, so I took that out. But I still have calendars. So every month we have this page, calendar, and then goals. So at the top of every quarter, it says quarter four goals. And then between quarters, it says progress report. And then I have December goals. And then we have a TBR page. And then we have the weekly layout that I have been using the last 2 years. And so I have Grateful for box, a weekly goal box, a habit tracker, and then a box for every day of the week, plus this random box that I didn't know what to do with. And I really, really liked this when I first made it. But after using it for a year and a half, I'm like, wow, I'm kind of sick of looking at it. And I still have to get through the rest of this year. But it's pretty. I'm kind of sick of looking at it. So after all my weekly spreads, we have a books read in December along with a bookish quote. And my reading wrap pages for the last 2 years have looked like this. So we have title, author, genre, and notes, and this little shaded box that says book in a word, pages, and rating. I've taken this book in a word line off because most months, I'm just like, yeah, it was good. It was fine. Like, I don't really have anything to say, or I have more than 2 words to say. I thought it would be fun, but again, after using it for a year and a half, I'm kind of sick of it. So each month has 4 front and back pages of 3, and I did that because the most amount of books that I've read in the last, I want to say, like 10 years in 1 month has been 12. And so I was like, okay, this way I have plenty of space for every month. But the problem is some months I read like 5 books or less. And so then I have all these extra pages. So then I'm printing all these pages that I'm not using. And then also, you know, I might have a month where I have a handful of shorter books that I've read and I go over 12. And so I said I want to do something a little bit different, which I'll compare and contrast, but have those. And then at the end of the month, I had this quote page. Some months this is enough space, some months it's not enough space and I need like 2 or 3 times as much space because sometimes I have a lot of quotes that I like. But after my quote page, we have our monthly wrap-up page where I go through, put my favorite read here and some notes about why it's my favorite read for the month, some random notes in case I DNF something and I want to say why. And this has mostly stayed the same. I did like some minor aesthetic changes, but this is mostly the same. So it just says books read, pages read, books bought, books unhauled, books DNF'd, TBR reads, and money spent. So yeah. And then I have my reflection page, which I only made 1 change to. I took out one of the questions. But every month, this is one of my favorite parts of the month, is filling out this reflection page. And it says, this month in a word, 3 things I accomplished. What goals did I not meet and why? How can I succeed next month? Is there anything I'm doing that's not working for me? I replaced this with, is there anything that's causing me stress? Because I noticed most months, I'm not really doing anything that's not working for me. Or at least not so much anymore. So maybe this was helpful, but now it's time to move on to a different question. And then I have, is there anything I wanted to do that I'm not doing? Which I do like that question still. And then I have my favorite part of the month, just whatever my favorite part of the month was. And then a wellness check, emotionally, creatively, and health-wise. And I just put a number 1 through 10. And then after that, I have a blank notes page for more bookish notes or whatever kind of notes I want to put down as I go through the month. So 2025's planner looks like this, and we have same tabs. I had this left over from a tab sheet, also Erin Condren, but not the same one. These monthly tabs are just months, and then they have like another tab sheet that just says like goals and schedule and notes and list. So I use the list tab for this, and I used the notes and list tab from these smaller monthly tabs, but yeah, they're the month on one side and then they're numbered on the other side. Okay, so the first thing I have is a bookshelf, and I have a color rating system. The very first year I did this, I just like used whatever colors I wanted, and I kind of looked a little tacky. So I have a color rating system now. I don't know if I'm going to use the color rating system next year. I probably am because I like it. So I have that on the back page for any shade of purple, any shade of blue, turquoise, any shade of red, yellow, or orange, gray. If I feel like a book is 1 star, I just DNF it. And most of the time, if I feel like a book is 2 star, I DNF it. So most of the books I read are going to be like 4 stars. But anyway, so I didn't count the number of books I had this year, but it's around 100. So I have 2 pages of that with some slight design changes. And I wanted like a little bit of a fancier bookshelf. I'll show you what I've been using this year. So I'll show you the blank side. So I really like the way this looks, but I wanted something a little bit different this year. So I went with this. Also, this is a lot thinner, significantly less pages because we're wasting less space. Okay, gonna flip to December. So every single month we have a quote page and a pretty background and a pretty border. Every month is different colors. And then on the other side, we have our goals check-in and our December specific goals and my December calendar. And then I have my note pages, and I have a TBR page. And basically what I do with my TBR page, I just print out, I have a template on Canva already, and I just upload pictures of the books, and I print it out, and I paste it, and you know, it's an extra step. I just enjoy doing it. If I don't feel like doing it though, I'll just write the books down, but I like to have the pictures because I think it looks good. Okay, so this next year, this is the design I'm going with. So I decided to have a Grateful for box at the top and then just a tracker because I don't want to have a habit tracker anymore. Some months or some weeks I should say, I don't have like, it's not specific enough anymore. So I want to have more specific goals. I don't just want to have one weekly goal. I want to have more specific goals. And so I have weekly goals here. There's enough room for 10 different things. And then I have a tracker. So I have a tracker if I want to track how many days I've read or how many days I'm written or whatever else I want to use a habit tracker for things that I actually want to do daily. Or if I don't feel like having a habit tracker, I can just do it as a mood tracker because I was thinking about doing some mood tracking next year. And so this way I just have like a tracker. I can use it. I cannot use it. And yeah, so I like the flexibility of that. And so yeah, so I have my weekly goals, and then I have the small box going down on the side for anything that I want to do on a specific day. They're all the same size, which is something that I like. Because sometimes in planners, they give you a half as much space on the weekend, and I'm like, that this doesn't work for me. So I don't have a lot of stuff I want to put in these boxes over on the side, but I like having them there for specific appointments and specific like to-dos that need to be done on a certain day. And basically how I got to this design is I just sketched out some stuff until I saw something that I liked, and then I kept playing with it until I was happy with it. And I messed around with this so much, I was starting to be afraid that I would just give up and not use it. But now that it's done, I'm happy with it. But the last thing I did, I don't know if you can tell, we have these boxes. There's like a slight curve on the edges. I tried doing more curved boxes and I didn't like it. And I tried doing completely square and rectangle boxes and I didn't like that. So we ended up with a slight curve and I was happy with that. So we have 4-week spreads and 5-week spreads. And on 5-week spreads, in order to keep everything even, I don't think there's a 5-week spread in December, but there's one in October, have Sudoku board, and I enjoy doing these when they show up, and there's, I don't know, maybe 10 or 12 in this whole thing. So, oh, there is one in December. I moved it. Okay, well, I'll get to that. So, after my weekly spreads, I have my reflection page. Everything's the same. I just changed that one question. And then I have my monthly wrap, which is mostly the same. So you can see I just changed it like a little bit. So I moved this heading outside of the box because I thought it looked better, and just changed, you know, from like little rounded corners to like more square or rectangle, whatever, more square corners. And then I just added one line for here so I have a little bit more space, talk about why this is my favorite book, and then everything else is the same because I was happy with this page. And then Sudoku, so that I start every month on an odd number page. Okay, so one of the big changes I did was instead of having 12 book pages every month, I decided to put 80 in the back. So this first notes page, or I guess the only notes tab, says books read in 2025. I have a bookish quote, and then my reading pages, and I'll do a side-by-side comparison again because I think it looks good. So this is what I'm using this year, and then I'm switching to this for next year. And so instead of 3 per page, I have 2 per page, so I have a little bit more space because I've noticed that there are some books that have a lot to say, and I don't feel like I have enough space. So I give myself a little bit more space. And then also, some authors have like a longer name, and I write kind of big, so I was having a hard time fitting the author's name sometimes in that box. So I have a longer line for the author. So again, it's just title, author, genre, and notes, and then I have this little square box that says rating, pages, and the month that I read it. So I'm really happy with the way this turned out. It's cute, I think. And so every so many pages, I have another quote page. So it's just a page with a quote on it. And then I change colors. And I do this for 80 pages. Quote page. Color change. You know, just to break it up a little bit. Make it, you know, fun. So, and I probably am not going to read 80 books next year, but I want to make sure I have enough space. So I think the most amount of books I've read since I've been tracking is like 77. So in case I have like a really good reading year like that year again, I'll have plenty of space, but not like an excessive amount of space, because this planner, I have 144 book pages, and so most of them obviously are not getting used. So this way, most of these should get used. And maybe I'll challenge myself and all of them will get used. But anyway, I have to show you all of these, but I like the colors. And I like these quote pages, they're cute. I really like this picture. I'm pretty sure I've used this picture in a planner before. And also, this was a way to get more quotes into the planner since I spend all year collecting quotes. So, and then instead of having one quote page a month and having some of them go unused and some of them, some months I don't have enough space, I use one of these list tabs and I have 10 quote pages at the end of the book. So this is slightly taller than the planner I'm using this year. It's slightly taller. It's about the same width. So instead of having this much space for a quote page, I made this smaller and take up less space, so I have more space. So not only is this taller, this box is bigger. And so I have 10 of these, and they're all different. You know, just so things are not the same and it's not monotonous, you know? So I have 10 of these. And then I have my year-end wrap. So I made a few small changes from this year. So this is this year's year-end wrap page. And so I have my year-end wrap-up page. I wrote a note to myself up here because one of the books I read was not on Goodreads. And so just a note to myself to add that book and that page number to total number of books and pages read. But this is what my wrap-up page looks like for this year. And this is what it's going to look like next year. So I had like a few things, like I had like this awards page that I was using last year and also for this year, because when I made this year's planner, I hadn't used the back matter in last year's planner yet. And when I got to it, I realized I didn't want all this stuff. Because I had like best covers, best titles, best characters, best first chapter, best series. I don't really read series that much, so it's probably going to be the only series that I read. Best standalone, which is probably just going to be my favorite book that I read. And best sequel, which might have been the only sequel that I read. So some of the stuff I didn't need. And so I decided to combine the wrap-up page and the awards page into one page. And so next year I have this for year-end wrap. So we have number of books read, number of pages read, my top 5 favorite reads, my top, like my least favorite 5 reads, and then I have my shortest read, my longest read, and my favorite covers for the year. I really enjoyed doing that last year. So I'm getting rid of the stuff that I wasn't using. And then the rest of the back matter is the same that I've been using every year. So we have format, length, and author stats. And I just put a line here for each book that I read and all of these different categories. And it's the same from last year. I just added a border around this box. And also this year I had like graphic novel and fantasy subgenre stats, but I decided that I'm just going to have just one fantasy box. I don't really care about the subcategories and I don't read enough fantasy anyway. So, and I'm just going to put my graphic novel genre stats in with all the other genre stats. I thought I would be interested in keeping it separate, but it turns out I'm not. So I have category and genre stats, and then a bunch of lines to write down the books that I buy so I can keep up with it. And then there's 2 pages of that. Not that I'm going to buy 100 books next year, because I think there's 26 lines. So I think there's enough room for 104 books. But I just like to have enough space just in case. Just in case there's like a good sale and I buy too many books or something. And then I use the same ones for book unhauled. And this is the same thing. 104 spots. I shouldn't unhaul 104 books, but again, I just want enough space in case, you know, I don't know. I decide I want to get rid of a bunch of books. This way I can write them all down and keep up with it for all of my tracking that I do. And there's 2 pages, this, and then there's this. So at the very end, I just have some blank pages because I like to have a couple of blank pages for note-taking purposes in case I want more rooms for notes. I have this kind of purple gray gradient thing on a couple of lined pages. What's really fun about these line pages is I did this myself because Canva has like some lined pages, but it's not free. So I think you have to pay for them, or maybe it's part of premium or something. Although I had a trial to the premium features when I was making this, but I wasn't looking at the lines because I had already made this at that point. So it's just fun to make line pages by yourself. So last year I got these coloring pages from World of Printables, and so I did that again this year. So I got this and Rose in case I want to do some coloring, which I did use them this year. It's a little interesting, so I'm not going to show you, but like it doesn't look that good. And so then to end the planner, I have like just this dot grid beige. And then on the other side of the dot grid, which I don't even know if it's showing that, but there's a dot grid page on the back. And then on the other side, on the front side, I have a yearly calendar for 2026. So I made this kind of early, and they did not have World of Printables, which is where I got my one from this year. I think I got colored pencil on it, so it's a little messy now, but I got this from World of Printables. They did not have 2026 ready because I was kind of in the mood and I wanted to, I don't know, clear my head, so I decided to work on my planner like extremely early. So in order to get something similar to this, I had to find somebody who was who had 2026 calendars ready that I liked the font. And so I found these on Etsy, and that's also the same person. I don't know who it was, but I'll put links in the description. But they had a whole like thing, I think it was like $3, and they had 2025 calendars, and I liked the fonts, and you could do Sunday start or Monday start. For my calendars, for some reason I want Sunday start, and for the planner for the weeks I like a Monday start. It's not confusing. But they have, you have that choice. And so they had a 2026 calendar, but it was just plain. And I didn't like the font they used for 2026, so I put a white box over the font that they had up here because it wasn't like this pretty font that they're using down here. I just really didn't like it. So I put a white box and covered up the year and then added these little design elements. And then I manually put colored boxes over every single month, and then had to fool with it a little bit to make sure everything was even and lined up. But I think it turned out really good. So by far, this is the longest I spent making the planner, but I'm happy with the way it turned out. So I guess some technical stuff. Last year and the year before, I got my planners printed at Staples. They had a really good coupon for the 2023 planner, but last year they had a good coupon, but it wasn't like a really good coupon, and it was kind of expensive. So I got this printed at lulu.com. This is like an A5 size, and the cost difference was kind of significant. I think it saved me about $80, and I think I was looking at, with a 30% off coupon at Staples, I think I was looking at like $130, and this was $50 with tax and shipping. So I decided next time I'm just going to see what sizes the printers have online, and then I will make my document to that size instead of picking a random size and then, going through a bunch of drama. Anyway, so I'm really excited to use this. I used Lulu instead of anybody else because I used them before. I know what kind of paper they use, and I know what kind of pens I can use on the paper, and I know about what kind of quality to expect. And they do spiral bound because for some reason I just really want my planners to be spiral bound so that I can just open it and just leave it open all day instead of constantly, you know, closing it and flipping it open and whatever. There's some really pretty colors in here. Although I did tone the colors down a little bit. I think one of the reasons is because it was starting to get on my nerves a little bit. So just for comparison, we have this full color background, and then we have these shaded boxes, and then going from this to this. So I just wanted something a little less colorful, but still a lot of colors, you know? So anyway, so we have these borders and this. And anyway, I'm happy with it. So doesn't matter how much work it was. All right, so that's all. And yeah, I hope you're enjoying your life. And I will see you sometime later. Bye.